Hey everybody. Thanks to the BACP for inviting me, and thanks to all of you for joining up today. And uh, congratulations. First step is always the hardest in terms of just having the interest and showing the initiative, and show the fact that you all are part of this program and taking part of the programming that the BACP offers, and a lot of other community programs that are associated with the city of Chicago is already a fantastic first step. A lot of people, I'm sure you've seen the stories, and I'm sure you can relate to friends and family that have ideas, but they never take the concrete steps to kind of move forward with them. So I always like to start my videos with that note of commendation because it is important and it does show how you're different than 9 out of 10 people. So congratulations for that. Today, we're going to be talking about how to become a nonprofit in Illinois. So, if you're here to learn how to clean a carburetor, wrong presentation. First off, who are we? Why should you even bother listening to me? Why do you care what I have to say? With anyone that you're speaking with anyone that's involved, always take everything with a grain of salt. You want to make sure that you do your own research because facts and information and details can be very specific to what you're trying to do or your situation or where you are. So I always say, look, this is a great starter piece to it, but you're going to have different facts and different information that can impact what you're trying to do. And you also want to develop a relationship with, other professionals and other people in your network that are going to assist you in what you're trying to grow and what you're trying to develop, right? You want to make sure that you have a bench of players, not only an attorney that you can trust, but accountants, board members, family, friends, whatever it might be, whether it's professional or personal relationships. I guess just in general that are beneficial. And beneficial doesn't need to be financial beneficial, but it can be beneficial in terms of people that provide great information or a shoulder to lean on or opinions or honesty in their critiques. You want to think about growing that kind of community because you're going to need to rely on that in different steps of the nonprofit process and running the nonprofit, and associating with different partners and things like that because most of the time you're not going to be able to do everything yourself, or even if you are able to do things yourself at the start, because it's a cheaper way to do things or more financially viable. Eventually, you're going to grow to a point where, just like anyone else, there's only so much time in a day. And so you're going to need to determine kind of what your focus needs to be on in order to take your nonprofit and to assist as many people and to impact those lives positively, no matter what you're doing and whatever the purpose of your nonprofit is going to be. And then also take care of your own mental health and your own physical well-being as well, because if you're the lead driver of this program and the work that you're doing, if you burn out, the whole thing kind of fizzles out unless you've built a system around that can allow you to remove yourself from that, which, ideally, it's nice to build those systems so that you can almost replace yourself. That's essentially what you're trying to do is clone yourself and your drive in the people that you work with, and what you're building, so that if you do end up taking a sick day, the whole thing doesn't fall apart. But yeah, so that's who we are. Our office works a lot with nonprofits, with businesses in different areas. And we like to assist, especially mom and pop shops when they're just starting out, because we found that our approach is really conducive to assisting people and building those relationships for long-term growth. In terms of myself, a little bit on my background. Nonprofits right up my alley. I do enjoy talking about this stuff, presenting and learning from others as well, every single time. And so that's why I want to make sure at the end of this presentation that we do leave time for questions, as was originally mentioned, so that we can kind of discuss what there is. And then, offline, certainly, if you ever have a question or opinion or what have you, by all means, feel free to reach out for a second opinion. My contact information will be posted at the end as well. So first things first, why even start a nonprofit, right? Um, and it's a good question. Sometimes, if you're duplicating efforts, I know a lot of people that, they'll bring an idea or they'll say kind of what the pain point or the choke point is and why they want to start a nonprofit in order to make some kind of difference. And the first thing I always tell them is, okay, let's see if we're duplicating any efforts, because is there another place out there that's already kind of doing what you're thinking about and what your mission is and what you're hoping to accomplish, where it might be better to partner with them as opposed to opening your own standalone nonprofit, and handling all the administration, all the work, and what have you with that. Sometimes it's going to depend on location. Maybe you're just focused on community building and in your specific community or your specific neighborhood, there isn't a nonprofit that focuses on assistance, micro localized, where it's just that community, where it's just Forest Park. You don't care about Oak Park, you only care about Forest Park. And so you want to focus your efforts only on Forest Park and do that. So that makes sense. If that's your mission and that's what you're looking to do, and it's differentiated enough from something else that's out there. Or maybe there is something out there that's doing it on a larger scale, and maybe you think they're not doing it as well as they could, and they're wasting a lot of money. You've looked through their books, and they have a lot of administrative costs as opposed to money actually going to people in need or the cause and the purpose of the nonprofit. And so you think, hey, I could do it better. And then eventually, everyone's going to see that my nonprofit is the better, for lack of a better phrase, competitor. But the nonprofit field, just like many other fields, it's really collaborative. There's a lot of people out there that are willing to share their opinions, their thoughts, things that work for them, successes, formulas, things of that sort. So, don't be afraid again, just like I mentioned at the start of this, start building your network of people that you're going to be able to go to for information or for inspiration or other things like that. Because that's going to be really important, not just in starting up, but also maintaining that. Because really, the secret to success I found in terms of my personal life, but also in working with other business owners and nonprofits and things like that, is the people that day to day come in and do the nitty gritty, and be consistent. It's not always flashy. It's not always going to be ribbon cuttings and positive news articles and what have you, but it's going to be the consistency of moving forward every day, whether that's a small hop or whether that's a giant leap. But doing that, and eventually that's what's going to build up and show you that, hey, I ended up going pretty far within this timeline. But that's what's going to lead it. So, think about those kinds of things. Obviously, we do have quite a few nonprofits already in Illinois, but that shouldn't scare you or that shouldn't detract you for the reasons that I mentioned. And again, at the end of the day, this is kind of your baby. So you grow and you get from it what you put into it and the people that are around it to kind of nourish it. So, again, one of the first things you want to do, figure out what your mission is. What are you going to address? What market? It's very similar to a business with like a SWOT analysis. You can do a lot of the same things where it's, your average. Usually you hear it with, for-profit businesses, but it's the same kind of idea because at the end of the day, a nonprofit is not unlike a business. It's just that those monies and those revenues and things like that are supposed to go towards that good cause, not towards shareholder revenue or disbursements or anything else like that. So you could still have things like salaries or benefits or employee overhead or costs related to leasing a space, to have like if you buy a building to provide cancer supports to survivors and people that are overcoming the disease, to give them a space a community space to gather around and host events and things like that. So you could still have a lot of the same kind of administrative stuff that you would have with any other business and a lot of those costs as well, related to it. So you need to think about what's it going to address, how are you going to do it better. The mission statement also is going to be used to focus kind of your eventual donors that you're asking money for, or corporate donors, individual donors, or people that you're looking to volunteer or join your board, or employees that you're looking to have for administrative, like for administration, for directors and things like that. They're going to want to know, what do you do? What's different than anyone else? Why do you do it better? Why should we support your vision? And why does that coincide with our vision for a better world as well, right? So you're trying to figure out what that definition is, and that's going to also be important for, as I mentioned over here, your IRS designation, because with nonprofits, there's really two steps. The actual formation of nonprofit, and we'll go through a couple more slides with that and kind of the nitty-gritty on that. But that's a state designation. The NFP, not-for-profit, that you see behind those three letters that you see behind the name, it's a state designation. So we're in Illinois, so we'll just go with Illinois, but certainly every state has their own kind of filings and things like that and requirements. But in Illinois, it's something that you file with the Secretary of State, very similar to when you're filing for an LLC or a corporation or something of that sort. And so it has its own kind of formalities that you need to pursue. Um, and then that's a state's designation. Now, if you want to do the tax exempt, the 501(c)(3) is the most popular one, or the most well known at least. That's going to be a federal designation then, at least, and that's kind of in addition to your state. So you start state, and then you kind of touch on a little bit of federal law and federal taxation if you're trying to look to get the ability to have that 501(c)(3) kind of tax exemption. There's other 501(c)s, like if you're a business organization, like a chamber of commerce or something like that. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a C3. I believe that one for business organization is like a C6, but there's different things depending on what you do. And so it's important to look at uh, your mission statement. That's going to be important in kind of designating that, and also providing support to the IRS. Hey, why do you want to be tax exempt? What do you do? And you say, well, I'm charitable, I'm educational, whatever it might be. I'm a business league, whatever it might be. So that's going to be important to have the paperwork consistent, not only with the people that you bring in, but also to keep yourself official and keep yourself away from investigations or other really, really bad things that no one wants when they're setting these things up. You want to do good. You don't want to be mired in litigation and potential jail time and things like that. So again, very important to the IRS as well, especially if you're looking for a tax exempt. I will make a note, you don't need to have the 501(c)(3). You don't need to ask for the IRS tax exemption. If you want to stay as the NFP and file kind of the state paperwork and file for any donations and things like that, we'll touch on that a little bit later. But if there's nothing that says you need to get the 501(c)(3) exemption, it's just usually most people do it because then it allows them to get some tax benefits. And that's usually like that card where you go into Costco and you buy, stuff for your events or things like that, and you're not charged the sales tax, or you have some reduced rate or something like that. So, and there's also potential benefits for, your donors. Sometimes it's kind of like a name brand, 501(c)(3). It's kind of like Delaware Corporation. Everyone kind of thinks that's the name brand. And so it might, as part of your marketing, it's I found some people kind of, it like adds an air of legitimacy to the NFP, even though that's not really what it legally does. But some people like that, and also depending on what the donations are and what have you, there might be some differences in terms of being allowed to have people write off those donations and things like that. So, but that gets a little bit further down the road once you're in extreme growth mode with huge nonprofits. Most don't go that route because they're super localized, so they don't need, millions and billions of dollars kind of thing. But that's certainly a reason why you would want to work or have on your board qualified CPA and a, quality accountant, to kind of go over that stuff, and a tax professional too. Those are always great to have, especially as you continue to grow. So one of the first things, think about your name. Do you want to be super specific on what it is? If you're talking about Forest Park Care, you're going to have a tough time probably extending to, Schaumburg or something like that, because it's Forest Park Care. So you kind of tie yourself to one community. And so you need to figure out, okay, do I want to have broad appeal? Do I want to have really local appeal? Do I want to have a specific name or like a niche or like kind of the same as like the marketing because that's essentially you're marketing a nonprofit, right? That's how you're getting people out there to drum up kind of excitement and donors and board and members that and volunteers. So if it has to do with if your nonprofit is running, caring for dogs, okay, put dogs in the name somewhere. You don't like cats, you only want dogs, so put dogs in the name. If it's open to other animals, maybe pets, or if it's open to all animals, including ones that you don't keep in your home and are domesticated, go with animal just in general. Wild Animal Fund or World Wildlife Foundation, whatever it might be. But you can use different names, different things, but think about what it's going to be that you're trying to project about your nonprofit. And if you get specific enough and think about it from that marketing angle, it kind of helps because then with the mission statement and the name, someone right away it clicks in their head, oh, that's what this nonprofit does. So it's a lot quicker and catchier as opposed to seeming like some kind of Ponzi scheme or something that you're trying to put over on people. Where I'm thinking about Seinfeld with the human fund. It's like, what does that mean? But it's a good joke and it lives on. But something like that, you might get people thinking like, all right, this is a little bit shady. So think those things through. And then yeah, the NFP is a designation that the Illinois Secretary of State requires just to show that that's what it's for, not for profit. Just like if you were open up an LLC, LLC is somewhere in the name, or Corp, Inc. is somewhere in the name, something like that. Um, but you can check that with the Secretary of State's website. If you just go to Illinois Secretary of State's, ilsos.org, I believe the website domain is, and just check on there, setting up an NFP. It's a great website. Secretary of State has done a fantastic job in even our prior when it was, Jesse White, starting to transition that. Secretary of State Janulis has really up that game with helping out people find informative and quick information and making things a lot easier for businesses and nonprofits to kind of get set up as well as maintain their legality and their operations. So it's a really great resource. But yeah, check the name and Google the name too. Just go in your favorite search engine and see if someone else has got that name. There was a big uh, news story a couple of years ago. Oh, my apologies. I don't know if you're seeing that, but some popped up on my screen just to update. But World Wildlife Foundation sued the WWF, the Wrestling Federation, and so they got into a big tizzy on it and a big issue, and so that's why you ultimately have WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment now, instead of and you got WWF. So you could get into some issues with trademark and things like that, and getting confusion and market confusion. So check out as much as you can. So with the Illinois Secretary of State, check it out. It's almost like a Google search when you go on the webpage. It's fantastic. It'll show you like all of them, even if you want to use a partial word, like if you want to use pets or something, and it'll show you all the companies and NFPs with the name pets in there. So you can kind of see, all right, I'm different enough, or there's not going to be confusion here. As I move forward, and then the search engine one is just nice because then you could see if depending on if especially want to expand outside of Illinois or different areas or what have you, if you want to go national, you might consider, okay, is this going to be an issue where I run into a company in Wisconsin that's got the same name, and so that's going to become a problem if I want to expand there to assist people. And each state, Secretary of State's website, you would do like a search. There are companies out there that, for a ton of money, similar to like if you do a trademark search or something, they'll do full reports. Most people, when they're opening up, they're not going to be high on cash. So, that's not really a thing to do. But your NFP might be different. You might have backing, financial backing that allows you that opportunity and that allows you that advantage. Fantastic. Again, everyone's got different situations, different facts, different details that are gonna when you talk to whoever your trusted representative or when you think these things through, are gonna factor into what you ultimately decide to do. Appointing a registered agent. So on those forms, again, company, NFP, whatever it might be, registered agent for the states is really where the state that you incorporated. So in this case, Illinois, where the Secretary of State can send notices, and where other parties, in case they got to serve you for like legal purposes or something like that. But any official notices, what's the address that they can use to get in contact with this not-for-profit? We need to be able to, we being the state, the public, they need to be able to know where is this person headquartered, who's the responsible party for this, so that if I do need to send a lawsuit or some kind of formal notification from the state about an annual renewal or a misstep or something like that, we need to be able to know what their address is, right? So it's not just some crazy address somewhere in Australia or something like that. It needs to be tied to the state that you have the NFP in, that you register with the state of Illinois with. So you're not to have PO boxes. It'll specifically say that on the form. Like UPS boxes, things like that. Either no go. It needs to be some kind of physical location. Sometimes people, when they're starting out, a lot of times it's not uncommon that they would use their home address, or if they have an office or something like that, and they use that. The only additional thing that I would say is, when set up your NFP, especially if you do have like a brick and mortar place where people can come in and volunteers come in, or you got like a youth center or something like that, just before you move forward with that, make sure you reach out to your local municipality as well to make sure that there aren't any zoning restrictions or any variances that are required, or any like business use purposes or something like that that are excluded for that location at that address from your local municipality. So it's not just the state of Illinois that you need to be concerned about. That's relatively simple and straightforward on the Illinois Secretary of State's website to create the NFP, but then the local ordinances and requirements, that'll be something that you'll want to pay attention to as well, to make sure. Because like if you have something like a nonprofit for food preparation or something, certainly you're going to have a higher level of scrutiny and a higher level of kind of steps and ongoing maintenance and safety that you're going to need for a food operation, as opposed to if it's essentially like an office use where you have a computer and some papers and things like that. So got to watch out for that. Also, if you're going to have people in there, zoning, like things like if you're going to have people coming in there to do classes and for support and stuff like that, if you don't already have a bathroom in there, you're probably going to need it. And then, ADA compliance and things like that. So there's different things that, your local municipality and whoever the code enforcement and business development people there are, they'll be able to walk you through that and let you know kind of what you need to do in order to be successful in that location. And again, for most NFPs, most municipalities, they appreciate the effort and the community building that goes into these kinds of situations where you're going in with positive purposes to help the community. And so that's part of what makes a community a community. Most people don't want to be involved in a community where it's just extremely isolated, or just people go in from 9 to 5 and then everyone blinks out, and it's gone to their home at the end of the night, and it's a desert. So you want to have that ongoing kind of relationship with the community, and have that ability to positively impact it. So NFPs, by and large, are welcomed, and communities will bend over backwards to kind of welcome you and continue to foster that support in the community. Board of directors, you have to have at least three unrelated. So, that's what the IRS prefers. Unrelated, you want to have you can have, like, if it really comes down to it and it's kind of like a family thing, fine. But you need to be a little bit careful, and you should have some diversity on there that's not direct family relations, only because there's always a threat of undue influence, or potential moral hazards in terms of having directors kind of funnel money to themselves. So certainly you can defeat that with increased conflict checks and responsibilities, and keeping yourself off like accounts or tied to finances or things like that. So, and also depending on what kind of work is being done with it. If it's just, running lemonades, or like lemonade stands, but you never take $1 for any of the work or stuff like that, and it's just handing out free lemonade, really there's nothing there, so there really isn't a financial conflict or concern about undue influence. So again, facts matter to support those things. It's not necessary that it's specifically Illinois residents, but if you're operating in Illinois and you set up in Illinois, you're going to need an Illinois registered agent. There are kind of companies out there that act as registered agents, even if the person physically doesn't live in that state. That will be the registered agent for a price, and they essentially get all the mail and just email you notifications of things that are going on for a price. Again, if most things can be done for a fee. Um, Again, your bench of people, your board of directors, you're going to want someone you don't want just your like close friends that never tell you no. It's eventually you're going to come to an issue where that's a bad idea, and the buck's going to stop, and it's going to be difficult to kind of continue on and be proactive, and it's just going to end up being more fighting than anything else. Is been my experience if you just got a bunch of yes men in there. So you want to be able to lean on other people's expertise and be able to learn from that as well and have that contribute to a stronger nonprofit that you're building. So, if you've got someone, an attorney friend that wants to join the board as a volunteer and they've got expertise in this area, fantastic. If you got an accountant friend that's what they do and wants to lend their expertise, fantastic. You've got two big buckets already filled over there. If you got a marketing person that does a lot of social media and print media and things like that to drum up the words, fantastic. People persons, is that even a word? That are kind of extroverts that can go out there to drum up donors and bring in contributions and donations and things like that. You almost want a salesperson. So anyone that's involved in sales and things of that sort that's got the right direction, that's a positive thing to have on there too. An insurance person, in case you do have a brick and mortar place or something happens, that's fantastic. So just different areas of expertise in your own professional lives. You want to kind of look to not necessarily duplicate a specific skill. You want to make sure that people are coming in from different areas so that diversity is going to help shape a stronger unit for you that with everyone pulling in the same direction, and that different people can take the lead at different times depending on what's necessary or what's required. So that's a great, invaluable kind of thing, and that's what you want in your board of directors and the people that are going to be on your bench helping you along in this journey. Specific, again, nitty-gritty kind of stuff. This is all with the Illinois Secretary of State's. They have their, forms on there. They're pretty self-explanatory. They're really short as well. But the devil is always in the details. So a lot of these things, whether it's a for-profit company, an NFP or a B Corp, whatever it might be, they're extremely easy to set up. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're set up right. So you might you might get the approval from the state of Illinois and file your filing fee and be done with it. But in terms of running the actual operation and the legalities of having setting up what you're doing to make sure that it's right and that it's protecting people you want to protect and protecting yourself and that it's being run so that you have no issues down the road, or at least limit those issues down the road as much as possible, is very important. And so that's where kind of, the lawyer kind of comes in, and that's where also the accountant and tax professional come in as well to make sure that you set up the foundation for that success early on. That's going to assist you in continuing that success down the road. But some things that you might that you'll want to consider with the incorporation documents and any documents internally that you have, like the bylaws and things like that for your NFP, which is kind of like the rules of the road and how everything is going to be run in the company, how you're going to take votes, how many people need to vote in order to have an approval, things like finances. How much, if it's over a $5,000 expense, you need to have two directors sign on a check so that it keeps from one person draining the account. If you're looking to buy land or something like that, you need a full, the entire board to approve or just majority of board, whatever it might be. So these are the kinds of things where kind of the day-to-day operations where you're going to want to talk about, not necessarily, sorry, not the day-to-day. That's usually like an administrator that handles that stuff, but the board is going to think about what's your strategic vision, what kind of employees you're bringing in, what direction are you giving to those employees to, like to the main administrator or the director. What are they tasked to do, and what authority do they have to handle day to day? Maybe they've got authority up to $500 expenses, but anything after that, they got to go to the board because you really need to be tight with the money and want to oversee things. It's a balance because you as the board are looking for oversight and policy and things like that for the NFP, and then the people working in it. Once you get large enough, you want to make sure that you give them enough flexibility to do what they need to do, but also guardrails to make sure that they're following the policy directives. And if they step out of line with that, or they make an error or a mistake or something, you're able to hammer them to correct course, and make sure that an issue doesn't get bigger than it needs to be, and kind of put out a fire when it's small as opposed to when it engulfs the entire house, right? So those are some items that you're going to want to look at with the specific form for the Illinois Secretary of State, but also for the actual bylaws that you're creating for your NFP. EIN, that one, that's the same as if you were a for-profit company. EIN is employer identification number, and that's important because when you become an NFP, you kind of have this. I had a law school professor that used to just say it's magic pixie dust, and all of a sudden you become a company. And so it needs to be tied to someone because the state of Illinois, the IRS, if you get some kind of exemption or if you need to file with federal stuff, they're going to want to know what that company is, who that company is. It's not just some ghost, right? Some fly-by-night operation. And so typically the start is tied to the founder and like their social security number. That's your baby. You're the point of contact. You're the one that's responsible for taxes and filings and things like that. And so they want to make sure that it's an actual person that's involved in it and responsible, and it's not just some money laundering scheme or some criminal enterprise that's opening up these kinds of things to funnel money through. So it's specifically a person, but the EIN, it's free. It's through the IRS website. Once you get the NFP, approved with the state, and you get the file number for that one assigned to it from the state, you go to the IRS. It's on the website. You don't need to pay. There's some of these companies that charge you like 150 bucks to get an EIN, and it's a complete sham because it's free on the IRS website, and it's very easy to do. If you've got enough funds to pay someone to do that, and it's convenient for you and it makes sense, by all means, it's a free market, do what you do. But if you want to go about it the typical way where most people do it, IRS website, secure a new EIN, for a new company, or if you create a new offshoot or whatever it might be, they have all the reasons there, and it's literally 5 minutes. It's online. It'll ask you to designate the person, and it will ask for a social security number to tie the EIN to a person, but at the end, you'll get an actual employer identification number tied to your company. And so the reason that I like that, and I've seen that in practice, is, if you have like an independent contractor or a vendor or somewhere else where you have to give them tax forms at the end of the year, the EIN is what you write on that tax form. If you didn't have the employer identification number, you're going to have to put your social security on there. And so most people don't want to give that to just some random person that delivers food for them, where they need to give them, a form at the end of the year for tax purposes. So it's great to have that EIN, and that's specific to the company, and then it keeps you and your social away from prying eyes. So it's an extra security measure for you. And if you go to open an account with like a bank or something like that, they're going to want to see the articles of incorporation with the state of Illinois, the year official, as well as the EIN, so that they can put that in their file, and then you can start. You have your account for the nonprofit, which you want to keep separate from your personal account because you want to make sure that there's that protection, that limited liability protection as well, so that If something goes wrong with the NFP, vendors or people involved are not able to go after your personal assets either. So it's good protection and it's good form and it's good business. Oop, the rain started pretty heavy outside. All right. Uh, The bylaws, what I mentioned, again, they're going to designate the rules of the road for the NFP that you're building, when you're going to have board meetings, how often you're going to have board meetings, what will require a board meeting, depending on the decisions made. Officer roles, treasurer is going to be responsible for finances, maintaining, doing audits. Usually an audit of books, you're going to want not the treasurer doing it because they're the ones that are responsible for maintaining the books. So if they make a mistake, you can't really ask them to audit themselves because their incentive is to cover up the mistake that they made, right? So if you do an audit, you're going to want to do either an outside company, independent, or you're going to want to put together, the other directors or a group of people that are specific to that specialty that can double check the work of the treasurer. They shouldn't be involved at all outside of just printing out everything and putting everything together for the review. So it's just, again, good practice to keep things clean. And if there are any issues, you find them out sooner than later before they get too big, and you're able to correct them when they're still small. But yeah, you can add. There's a lot of different things that you can add in there, but it's what you want to do and what's something that you want to talk with your attorney as well to figure out what works so that you're not hamstringing your operations and what you're trying to do with the nonprofit with too much red tape. Tax exempt status, again, like if you're looking for a 501(c)(3) or anything else like that, those are the forms that you typically use. The EZ is a really nice one. I'm involved with some local groups over here, and if they're like if they're only taking in less than 50,000 a year, it's like a postcard form essentially, just saying, hey, this is still the address that we're at. This is the main contact that you can put. And yes, we affirmed that we took in less than 50,000 a year. All we did was sell hot cocoa at the local community events, and we made $500, and we put that back into buying Swiss Miss and coffee carafes or something to keep them warm and cups. So everything's spent. Anything that's not, it's in the account for the nonprofit, and we've got at the end of the year, $100 left over. So we can do more hot cocoa next year, kind of thing. So it could be something as simple as that. But it's still a formality that you need to file. It still needs to be filed. So look out for those things and what you have. And then with the processing, it could take up to a year depending on your filing or the purpose. You want to have those formalities in place. You want to have legitimate books and maintain and things like that because the IRS is going to look at that stuff to make sure that again you're not a criminal enterprise. You're not some fly-by-night operation. You halfway know what you're doing to keep it from becoming seeking tax exemption for nefarious purposes. So as much as you can, you know, present all that stuff, and the reviewer over there will certainly have communications with you and ongoing dialogue. But just uh, do everything above the book, and you'll have better chances at success. State tax exemptions, again, if you're filing with the Illinois Department of Revenue, and kind of different deadlines and requirements and timelines for that too. But, property tax, that's a big one too. Like people, if they open up, their own, again, like a group home or something for providing programming and things like that, that's going to be contingent on the county in which you reside or in which the building resides. And so that might go through a process. So you'll want to talk with whoever, the commissioners are in that county and whoever's responsible for property taxes in there to review with the board and, prove kind of, hey, this is what we're doing. Here's photos from our last event. Here's receipts from our events. Here's our donor roll. Here's email communications that we had. Here's our bylaws. Here's our board minutes. things like that. So you want to have those formalities because that's what's going to show to the board of review that yes, this is a legitimate reason, nonprofit, and this is a legitimate reason to give them a tax break, whether that's partial or whole or what have you, and support your application for that property tax remediation for whatever your nonprofit is. Charitable solicitation, again, just with the Attorney General, if it's something where you want to make sure that everything's above board, and when you're seeking donations, it's not just a way for, someone that's got a lot of money to kind of funnel things through and just keeping things above board and being able to maintain those. And again, a lot of this stuff is just stay above board, be honest, do things the right way. Don't do anything shady. There's a lot of different ways where you can get caught and you will get caught. It's just a matter of time. Maintain those kind of uh, maintain those checks and balances and do things on the up and up. And that'll be perfectly fine. And you'll have a better chance of success. License and permits. So again, depending on what your activities are, you may need licenses. Like if you're a not-for-profit and you're a charitable group, but you help out and you run events where you might need a liquor license, like you're selling beer at a beer tent or something like that. A lot of local chambers of commerce, at community festivals and things like that, they organize the beer tents and selling alcohol and things like that. So you're going to have some requirements where you're going to need to get, a license. Typically, municipalities have limits on the number of licenses that they'll allow for any specific group. So you have to think about which events you're going to do that with. And then that'll usually entail, insurance, dram shop. Dram shop's the big one with anytime liquor is involved. And you'll probably need to do things like, for example, in beer tents, be Bassett certified, where for anyone that's been a bartender or worked in a restaurant, you probably know BASA certification is just kind of training that you go through to make sure that you can tell when someone's getting drunk or a little bit tipsy so that you can cut them off and be responsible with alcohol. And, you'll be the point of contact and the authority for that with your local group. So, different things like that, though. But again, work with your municipality to kind of figure out what you need. If you're doing, bingo, like different uh, charitable gaming. There sometimes some municipalities have regulations on that specifically about what you can do or what you can't do or banning it. I'm blanking on the name. It's Queen of Hearts or something like that. Like those are the pretty big raffles, that go in that a lot of community groups, and you've probably seen some news stories with those too when the pots get really, really big. But look into those things as well. And again, have that open line of communication where you are, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Maintaining compliance, again, keep those stay on the up and up and keep everything in file and keep your NFP in order and do things the right way. Ask questions, before that it becomes an issue too, and make sure that you stay on top of paperwork as well in order to maintain that eligibility for everything that you do, and continue your operations. But sales tax exemptions got different timelines, annual renewals with the state of Illinois. They'll usually send you an annual renewal about 2 months before like the birth date of whatever you created, the NFP, and they'll send that to the registered agent as well. So that's why you want to have a registered agent address that you know and trust and have, not just put some random address that you're just putting on there to put in an address, but you don't even know that person or where that place is, because all notifications from the state, including the renewal notices, are going to go to that address. So you want to make sure that that, hey, you need to renew if you want to continue the NFP, and that's something that you need to file in order to maintain that NFP designation and everything that comes with it. If something happens, sometimes stuff falls through the cracks. I've had situations with people that I've worked with where they're just like, "Oh, crud, I completely forgot," or I had someone in the hospital and it was a long-term illness, or life happens. The state is and all all the specific bodies that have it, they do have some leniency in terms of allowing you the ability to make good, even if you do pass a deadline. It's not usually a death sentence. There is some cushion, but it usually comes with some kind of penalty, like a money penalty, where they'll say, extra $100 or extra $50 or whatever it might be, or an explanation about what happened, and okay, fine, we'll give you a stamp this time, a slap on the hand. But that's usually the kind of thing. So it's not a death sentence, but you want to stay on top of those things as best you can. But know that just in case something does happen, if there is a lapse, there usually are measures available to remedy that. Just going to be a question of what paperwork and what money is going to be involved in order to get back in compliance. But it's always better to get back in compliance than just let it go, because you risk a lot of bad things if you just let it be, including potential personal liability for expenses and things like that too. So. Again, kind of what I've been chirping on the entire time that we've been talking so far. Make sure you bring on people that have half a head on their shoulders, that have skill sets that are going to accelerate and grow your nonprofit and expand its reach and what you're trying to do. Once if you have the ability from the front, fantastic. If you have funds, if not, you're kind of bootstrapping it, as they say, and trying to figure out where to spend the money until you get more money, and then even when you get more money, how do you spend that in the best way that's going to accelerate the positive benefits that you're able to deliver, and to continue to deliver. So, softwares for donor management like CRM stuff, customer relationship management, very similar to that. Accounting, QuickBooks, Wave. There's other ones out there that offer good values and support as well. Good value, maybe good values too, and support. Again, diverse, and then don't be afraid to ask questions with those professionals that you work with and those people that have that background. So again, congratulations on being here and taking that first step and listening. And I know that we've gone through a lot of information, a lot of detail, but this video will be available on YouTube later. And again, don't be afraid to reach out. There's a lot of great information out there. There's a lot of great communities out there. There's a lot of great people out there that are more than willing, and other NFPs or a lot of community groups that are willing to share their experience and that information with you. So don't be afraid to ask questions, build that network, attend more events, whether it's through the BACP, other partner organizations, what have you. And it's a constant um, uh, uh, it's a constant learning adventure, and it's just the more that you're willing to accept that and be that kind of person that's continually curious and continually looking to improve, the better your chances are going to be for ultimate success. So thank you very much, everybody, and we'll start on the questions.
It looks like you do have a few questions, not a lot.
Great.
Okay, Monique, I see you. See, this is why I don't tell people my name. Just for that statement right there. Um, it's actually a lot of comments, good
Oh, fantastic.
comments.
Well,
So
give
saying
me the
thank
good ones, and
you.
anyone that's bad mouthing me, just keep those private.
I am interested in helping pre-K and kindergartens through fourth grade, mentoring via teleconference or webinars.
Great. That's wonderful.
Our board of directors a paid position?
Usually not, but yeah, usually not. It could be, but you really need to put some guardrails and specifics on there with it, because that could potentially open up conflicts or undue influence, or concerns about that. So typically not, especially in nonprofits. They're just there to give their expertise and be able to have that on their resume and do good. Most people, there are still people out there that just want to do good outside of the almighty dollar. But that board of directors, they're definitely going to want typically some kind of administrator that's running the day-to-day operations for the NFP so that they're not the ones actually handing out t-shirts or stuff like that. And they're just being called on to, offer their advice and their expertise and things like that. And then you have kind of the grunt work being done by someone inside the nonprofit. And so that person, typically the head administrator or director of whatever that program is, you're probably going to want to, yeah, certainly provide them with a salary or some kind of benefits or whatever it might be. A board member could be technically the director, but again, you're going to want to have some really, really good language in the bylaws and some protections on there to make sure that that person isn't voting on things that impact their pay and how you review them at the end of the year to make certain that they're a quality director and stuff like that. So yeah, it needs some guardrails if money starts getting involved at any level.
Um, Today's webinar was recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Chicago BACP. The NFP proposed name must contain a CO, INC, or LTD. Is there a difference and a preference over the others?
It just depends. You don't necessarily need to have usually depending on the entity. So there's different kinds of legal entities depending on whatever the business purpose is. So limited liability company, corporation, there's different forms, and they are completely wholly separate, different kind of legal entities for conducting whatever business that might be, whether that's charitable or profitable. And so different designations and different formalities are involved with different uh, kind of ways of incorporating. And so usually you'll see like the LLC for limited liability corporate. If you're a corporation, it's got a corp something on there. NFP, not-for-profits, NFP are the big trigger words on there. You don't necessarily need to have the other kind of initials or anything else like that. NFP is the biggie that you're going to want on there in order to designate to the public, hey, this is a non-for-profit. And then, people that know the name of the group, they'll be able to look that up on the Secretary of State because they'll be able to look up, is this thing legitimate? Are they current? Where is the registered agent in case they gotta be sued or in case some kind of notification needs to be sent to them? So you kind of like you need to be known to the public. You can't be someone that's intent on hiding. And so that's your public statement to everyone. And so the NFP is really those three letters are the ones for the designation for a non-for-profit at least. The other ones, Co. Inc., LLC, uh, LLP, whatever it might be, those are different designations for different legal entities that do offer protections, but they're for different purposes. If that's an answer, I hope so.
Regarding staff, is there a standard salary range for Illinois?
No, no. The only thing that you need to, everything is negotiable. The only thing that you need to worry about are minimums, where, if you got like a Department of Labor wage and hour ordinances, depending on where you're located to, and, the city of Chicago, or different municipalities might have different minimum wages if that's the way you're doing it, if it's an hourly, if it's a exempt versus non-exempt kind of thing position. So those are the kinds of things. And then you want to still be abreast of, um, so HR professional would be a great person to have on your board or someone that you could be contacts so they can assist you with those kinds of concerns and handling those things. Because, if someone gets hurt on the property while they're shuffling papers that you're putting together for your presentations or something like that. Technically, that's on the NFP too. So you need to have certain worker protections, minimum, salaries or wages at least. Salaries can really be anything so long as it's not a sham salary. You don't want to pay them hourly, so you just pay them $2 salary. That's not going to fly. Department of Labor is we're gonna poo-poo that. But yeah, speaking of Department of Labor has a great especially for Illinois. They have a great helpline that you can reach out with all those questions to kind of get second opinions and review, and they can send you to relevant information and things like that. So you still want to maintain all those formalities and look into those things. So n no necessary maximums, but you're going to have minimums at base.
The question for me, if I've already completed the program years ago, is my certificate still valid? Yes, the certificate does not expire. Just get in contact with the person over at CIBC Bank. Would you suggest a person hold off on any nonprofit activities, big or small, until all the legal matters are complete, such as donation?
Uh, I guess I'm going to kick the can down the road on that one and kind of say it depends on what the situation is. If you've got you're like a local community venture where you're just helping kids build lemonade stands and you have a couple sheets and you're trying to like te promote financial literacy and stuff like that, you're probably not looking at a full-blown NFP filing and asking for donations, and things like that. So it's just like you're doing good out in the community. As you become more formal and as you start expanding, and especially as money or things start coming in, and you start getting beyond just you being a good neighbor, you're definitely going to want to look at doing the formal NFP filings and opening up bank accounts in the name of the NFP and doing all those formalities for your protection too, because that's going to be protection from your personal assets. But yeah, there's different levels that are involved in it. It's just like any for-profit company. If you're just operating a lemonade stand, you're probably not going to set up a corporation for that. But if you start operating 20 different lemonade stands and you got distribution deals, yeah, you probably want probably want to get official.
The next question. I want to start an occupational therapy nonprofit for adolescents. Do you think that's a good route for a health professional?
It could be. Yeah. If at the end of the day, it kind of goes back to start a conversation that we had. If you think that there's a need and there's something that you can deliver that's better than anyone else out there, and you think you can do it more efficiently and effectively, and that you can be a quality steward to others, why not? It's not really I don't think it's really a question for me to answer. That's really a question for you to answer. And as part of that, you're going to want to do your own analysis with, SWOT and forces and other things like that. And the same kind of stuff that you would do in order to build a foundation for your NFP or your company or whatever it is for your project. There's a lot of great tools out there. Local libraries, if you go to the business librarian over there, they've got a lot of great resources where you can pull in to do analysis, market research, potential projections, financial projections, things like that, that are going to be important to sustain your success beyond just the idea and implementing it in order to continue to implement it. So there's a lot of great resources out there, and there's a lot of free resources out there, which is always a plus as well, that are quality free resources. So yeah, I would, besides BACP, a lot of other City of Chicago programs that are out there to assist in that endeavor, but local libraries are amazing. I would not do not discount your local library. The libraries are amazing. A lot of great information there as well.
Is a virtual address allowed for nonprofits?
Virtual address. That would require me knowing what a virtual address is. If you're referring to like a UPS store or something like that, no. If you're talking like literally, Augie at gmail.com, no. It needs to be a physical space because again, you need to have that person be able to accept service of process as well as formal notifications from state and other parties. What you could do, maybe if the virtuals, if that's what you're referring to, is you could pay to have a registered agent where they have these companies where you pay like, $400 a year and they act as effectively a virtual agent, but they actually have a physical location in that state, but you could be in Florida, for example, and never touch foot in Illinois, and they still act as a registered agent in Illinois. So they have a physical location there. All the mailings and everything go over there, all the notices. If you get served with a lawsuit, you're taking it subject to Illinois jurisdiction, there, what have you. And what they usually do is they just email, they scan and email any post mail that they receive or any notifications that they receive as a registered agent, and then just send it to you and say, all right, do whatever you got to do with it, but we're out. So there are companies like that that do that. Yeah, there's a lot out there. They just charge a fee for it.
Here's another one. We have, do you have free legal?
We do handle some pro bono cases, just like anything else. We I need to put bread on my table as well. But yeah, depending on what the situation is, we've done pro bono work, and we're proud of that pro bono work that we do in the community because that's kind of like our NFP for lack of a better phrase. So certainly, if you have an issue or concern or opinion or what have you, by all means, feel free to reach out. Certainly, you'll notice I have my CYA memo at the start of this where this isn't legal advice. I'm not your attorney. There's no attorney-client privilege or anything like that. But for those clients that we take on as pro bono clients, we do have formal engagements so that we have the scope of work and what's being provided and what's expected of our office and what's expected of your office and what have you like that. But that's a different conversation to have offline. And certainly my contact information is there. Feel free to reach out, and we can see what it is and what can be done.
I have a 501(c). Now, are there specific organizations designed to help nonprofits find funding?
Oh, great question. I don't know if any offhand that offer that as their specific kind of area. A lot of times, unfortunately, that kind of prompt is what gets some shady operations and kind of get rich quick schemes or people that are promising a lot more than they can deliver. So I don't know any offhand, but what I would say is definitely reach out to maybe other NFPs that are in the area to see if they have any recommendations for people. Certainly, I understand you're kind of that's competition if they're too close to what you do, so they don't want to reveal their funding sources. But local municipalities also have some programs that could be offered for community funding, so you could start there too as well with your community development or human services team over there. There's also something called the CDBG funding. That's a program that awards funding for nonprofits and community uses through local municipalities. So that's a community block CBDG, community block development grants. So that's something that you can look at. If you just look it up online, those are great resources as well, and that's potential area. But that's another reason why you'll also want to have someone that maybe has background with grants, like federal grants and writing grant applications and things like that. Speak that's where you can Google grant programs and things like that. You can also reach out to your local state representative or your federal representatives as well, Congress people, and congressional reps and things like that, and they may be able to provide you with information about kind of timelines and deadlines and potential options for funding that are out there. So that there we go. I found an answer through all that.
The nonprofit is founded to perform volunteer services to the community. and do not plan to generate a revenue for the first few years, does it need to register as a business with Chicago?
That well, that would be a question with the city, but if you're not if you're not notifying anyone of it, it's kind of like, all right, how does Chicago know that you're running a nonprofit if you're if you're not making any money, you're not notifying anyone. So it's kind of a it depends kind of question. I would say refer back to my earlier one. But if you're just doing good community work in the work, if I'm mowing my neighbor's lawn, that's a good deed. But this not my I'm not doing a not for profit, so I'm not reporting that to the village. So it's kind of like that idea, I think, is where you're getting at. But yeah, so I'll go. It depends on that and what you're doing and what you're trying to get away with.
Can we start off with family and friends as board members?
You potentially, yeah. A lot of NFPs start that way. You want to be careful about the relationships that you have and the connection that they have with it. But yeah, that would be something where you'd want to again put some guardrails on there to make sure that everyone's moving in the right direction. But there isn't anything explicitly that says, friends and family are exempted. And it's kind of expected, especially with smaller nonprofits and especially with community related ones. Friends and families are the ones that are around there that are most likely to give their time and put in the effort for it. So it's not uncommon for that to be what your starting board is, and until you grow something, and then even so, you don't want to always jettison the people that helped you build it. Just because you get someone with a couple letters after their name or something like that. So you that's going to be part of the culture that you're creating with that NFP and part of the soul, for lack of a better term, of what that is and what you do. So it's completely understandable.
Will a nonprofit partner with a profile for profit business?
Yeah, short answer, yes, but long answer, it's you need to make sure there's clear delineation of who's doing what. If you're like a partner, like there's back to school. You have a lot of NFPs that provide backpacks and school supplies and things like that to children that may need them or families that may need them for assistance. And so, they'll partner with, they'll get crayons from Crayola or something like that. And so that's like what the partner is, you have your banner with backpacks for kids, NFP, and sponsored by Crayola. They give money just like they're a donor. So instead of giving, maybe they give money and they give crayons as part of that, sponsored by. And then for the companies, one, depending on the value of the donation. It could potentially be a write-off. Two, it's kind of goodwill. They're showing that they're community partners and they're getting some good PR from that as well. Not to be completely cynical, but it's certainly. And then so there is a value there. But if it's like trying to create an NFP to just uh, funnel money from your company and then put it back for events or something like that, if you're trying to do like some weird financial scheme, yeah, just walk away right now. But if it's something like partnering or they're a corporation as a donor to your NFP or something like that, and you have enough delineation so that someone that sniffs around doesn't find anything there, fantastic. And that happens all the time. A lot of corporate partners, like even at Shedd Aquarium, they name, they have a field museum and all that stuff. They have corporate partners that, they do events there, they give money, they make donations, they have their name on the literature that they send out and stuff like that. So that's not uncommon if that's what you're referring to.
Do nonprofits usually have a business plan? Are there any different things a nonprofit business plan would include that is not usually in an LLC business plan?
I would say, yeah, you should. It's a smart way to kind of organize what your nonprofit's going to be doing and what the motivation is for people to volunteer and what the motivation is for donors to give their money and their time to it. And so I think you should treat it the same way and do kind of the same groundwork and homework in order to figure out what's your mission, what do you do better, how you can deliver these things. If you're doing like backpacks for kids, there's a sense of, logistics in there. Like, where are you going to store all this stuff? If you got 2,000 backpacks, you storing that in your basement? Probably not. So there's a manner of different things and different scopes that you're going to want to look at and treat just like if you were a for-profit business. Again, not-for-profit doesn't mean you're not making money or making enough to cover the cost, because if you can't cover the costs, whether that's from donations or beer sales or other things like that, or sales of goods, like maybe you make bracelets to help wounded soldiers or something like that, and profits go towards that. Well, you got the cost of the actual bracelet, the cost of goods sold, right? So it's just kind of, I think it would be smart to think of it in very much the same way. At the end of the day, it's just a different entity for a different purpose, with the money going for different reasons, is what the differentiator is. And that's not to say as an LLC you can't, make donations either. Yeah, if you want to act as a for-profit company and not have to be registered as an NFP and handle those specific regulations and those restrictions on funding, and the tax exemptions are not, worth it for you or anything else like that. There's nothing keeping you from making a donation to another NFP or to just doing good work in general as well. So there's a lot of different ways to give back, but because this is a class about how to form a nonprofit, that's why we're focusing on that.
There's a question. Can you offset generating revenue for a couple of years, or do you have to have a bank account and push for financial activities to not look shady to the state or the IRS?
Anything you could do to not look shady is going to be a benefit to you, but I'm going to punt that question to the accountant, because or your tax professional. I'm going to say that's a better answer to get from them. I know just enough about accounting and taxes to get myself and others in trouble, so I'll leave that to someone that's got a better background for that.
Um, you guys? Next question. I think I skipped one. What is your perspective of grants when it pertains to nonprofits?
I think it's another source of potential funding to do good. But it's just like with anything else, there's going to be strings attached to it. So you want to make sure that the information that you provide is credible, and you have the support for it. You want to make sure that you're very careful about timelines. A lot of times, grants will require kind of like a nod or a letter of support from either your local municipality or a member of Congress or something else like that, in order to kind of act as a initial review and check to make sure that it's not something shady. So there's a lot of hoops that you go through. It's a lot of work, but it's a great source of revenue for funding your operations to do good. And it's not just for NFPs, local government entities. They're always writing grants for different projects that are inside their community. Some are successful, some aren't. So I think it's, yeah, short answer, definitely. But it's just remember, there might be some strings attached to it, or some requirements where you need to spend a certain amount of dollars before you hit the grant money, or you might need to, 80% can be covered by a federal grant, but 20% needs to be covered from your pocket, so that there's skin in the game for something like that. Or you need to have like a certain deliverable, or you need to spend it by a certain time, like American Rescue Plan money, stuff like that. When that was going around, there were different restrictions on it. So just pay attention to what it is and the applications, as well as the timelines for it. And if it's fits with what you're doing, and it's within your scope, and by all means, go for it. It's a source of revenue. You got to go out there, and it doesn't hurt to ask.
I put in the chat the link for the Secretary of State for NFPs because I keep seeing it coming up. So people have said they're having a hard time
Oh,
finding it.
thank you. Thank you.
Is there an accountant for a 501c? I want to know, is there any reference guide about full compliance requirements?
Any specific accountants? I wouldn't be able. That's something where you reach out to different groups and see who's gonna be able to work with you and who's your best fit. You want to work with someone that also has experience in that area, not just nonprofits, but maybe they've got a passion for bikes or something like that. And so you have a bicycle nonprofit, and so you'll find an accountant, through one of the shops that you go to. That has a passion for bikes and is willing to assist as well. But yeah, in terms of specific names, I don't hand them out because I don't know if they're open to take business. I don't know if they're willing to do pro bono work or anything else like that. So I would say reach out to your circle and network and reach out to someone and kind of interview them and see who works best for you. And if it's not something where they're going to offer free assistance, see what their pricing is and make sure that that's part of your operating costs for your NFP and your ongoing operations and account for that.
Mm, let's see. If your 501c owns real estate, can it create a lease to a for-profit company and then take that rent as a source of funds?
I'll punt that one to the accountant as well. But just be yeah. When you start getting super fancy and using different cups and moving money and things like that, the more complicated usually starts raising some eyebrows. But it depends. But it's I would recommend reaching out to an accountant or a tax professional for that answer. I apologize. I realize I'm kicking a can on that one as well, but again, I stay in my lane and I know where I know and hand it off to other professionals in other places so I don't get in trouble.
Can you have a non-for-profit if you have three businesses?
Yeah, you can have as many businesses as you want. I mean, you can open up 15,000 different businesses if you want. The really important thing is just making sure that each of them are their own bucket, each of them are their own entity, each of them have their own formalities, that you're keeping up with the maintenance for each of them, whether that's renewals or paperwork, or things like that. So yeah, each one is its own different baby. And yeah, just because you own PepsiCo doesn't mean that you can't start an NFP as and you're the main person, you're the face of it. The other thing you have to consider, maybe your network's large because then you have substantial donors because you have friends that are, the person that owns Coca-Cola or the person that owns Gatorade. I'm saying stuff to say stuff, but you know what I mean. Like if you've got your circle of friends that are larger donors, there's nothing wrong with that. But just you want to make sure that if you're a part of a company or if you're a shareholder or something like that, you want to make sure that there isn't anything in those specific articles of incorporations or bylaws or things like that that say if you are taking outside employment or outside projects or outside endeavors, that it is not a no-no for your for-profit company because the for-profit company might be concerned that you're using that nonprofit to funnel money from people or try and influence them or something else like that. So just check and keep everything above board. But there's nothing necessary that's keeping you from owning companies and owning NFP. Just the intermingling things is where it starts getting a little eyebrows raised.
We have time for this last question.
Sure.
If I'm able to start a non-for-profit for my animal foundation in Mexico, is it true that the donations given to the foundation are not tax deductible for the donor?
That one, I'm gonna punt that one to the accountant. I apologize. I don't have a clear answer on that one specifically and what it means for cross-country transactions. I apologize. But yeah, let me if you reach out to an accountant or tax professional with that, because there are some operations that handle money that's kind of from the U.S., but they send it to other countries for assistance, like building schools in Rwanda or something like that, you know. So I'm not exactly sure. I'll admit when I don't know it. My apologies.
Any last words for our attendees today?
No, I just want to say thank you again to everyone for attending and for your time. Hopefully, you found even a small part of this beneficial in your journey. And again, continue to be inquisitive, continue to network, continue to bring positive energy, take care of yourselves and take care of others. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you to all of our attendees today for attending this webinar, and thank you to you, to our presenter. If you are a part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, your account will automatically reflect your attendance within 24 hours. To learn more about this program, please visit chicago.gov/BACP certificate. Today's webinar was also recorded. You can view this webinar again within 24 hours on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Chicago BACP. Thank you again for everyone for attending, and have a good evening.